Things to consider about the isotope dating methods. When they date rocks that we know when they formed, the methods don't work. But when we date rocks, then we don't know the age of the rock, like a meteorite, we are supposed to believe that they do work. That's religious bias masquerading and undermining real science. Bad dates are the rule. They date a rock over and over again until they get a good date that they select. So what's their definition of a good date? Well, that's a date that matches the man-made geologic column or time scale. The geologic column is the Bible. This is where the old Earth beliefs truly come from. Back in the early 1800s, shortly after George Washington passed away, some scientists started saying, wait a minute, those sedimentary layers of rock laid down by water didn't form in a flood. They formed slowly over millions and billions of years. So they assigned each layer of rock a name, an age, and index fossils, like this fish the arrow is pointing to. And the index fossil supposedly went extinct while that layer was being laid down. Well, therefore, he should never be found in the upper layers. So anytime they find that particular fossil, the index fossil, they assign everything in that layer the age that they gave the index fossil. Well, where did they get the age for the index fossil? This was back when modern transportation was a fast horse, when they thought a cell was just a simple gelatin-like substance. Where did they get the ages? They made them up. They just chose ages that they wanted. In fact, this book on page 306 tells the kids we date the rock by the fossil found in it. Well, where do they get the age of the fossil? Or on page 307, they tell the kids we date the fossil by the rock it's found in. We date the rock by the fossil and the fossil by the rock. It's a total circular argument. If I were to give you two pieces of limestone, and I told you one of these formed a year ago and the other formed 500 million years ago, how would you tell the difference? I mean, limestone's limestone. How would you tell the difference? By the fossils that were found in the layer of rock. They date the rock by the fossils. For instance, lobe-finned fish were index fossils for rock up to 325 million years old. So any rock layer found with the lobe-finned fish fossil in it, and everything in the layer was dated 325 million years old. Except they found the coelacanth, the lobe-finned fish, alive 70 years ago. Not extinct for 300 plus million years. So either that fish refutes the old Earth dating methods, or that scuba diver is 325 million years old. And choose for yourself what you want to believe. In fact, it's really interesting because the fossil record is a total embarrassment to evolution. They try to claim otherwise. That's total bluff and bluster. The lobe-finned fossil, which is supposed to be up to 300 million years old, looks just like the living fish today. In other words, there's no Darwinian evolution found in the fossil record. It's an embarrassment to evolution. And their index fossils have been showing up alive today by the dozens. And it's totally undermined the geologic time scale. So they're trying to distance themselves from their own index fossils. But it's not just marine creatures. The Wollemi pine tree, for example, was an index fossil for rock supposedly 150 million years old, except it's been found alive in 3 different locations over the last 6 years. Not extinct for 150 million years. And an interesting thing is scientists have taken DNA from the 3 different groups of trees and compared them, and they're the same. If they had been separated for any appreciable length of time, they would have had adaptational and mutational losses in the gene pools, and there should be some differences. You see, those layers were laid down about 4,400 years ago. Well, the geologic column, the Bible for old Earth beliefs, this is what has fooled people into believing in millions and billions of years, is only found in 2 places in the entire world, in the correct order of the 12 primary layers with the corresponding index fossils by which they date the layers. Do you know where the 2 places are that the geologic column has been found? School textbooks and museum displays. Believe it or not, the geologic column, which has misled billions of people into believing in millions and billions of years, has never been found anywhere in the real world in the order by which they date things. It does not even exist. This textbook admits if there were a column of sediments, unfortunately, no such column exists. How sad. Listen to this carefully from the American Journal of Science. Think about what they are saying. The radiometric dating would not have been feasible if the geologic column had not been erected first. Well, what does the non-existent geologic column have to do with the scientific isotope dating methods? The radiometric dating techniques don't work. They pick the date from the geologic column, which doesn't exist. And people think I'm crazy for believing in a young Earth creation. Let me tell you, if there was a global flood, what it comes down to is all the old Earth beliefs are based on the strata forming slowly. The global flood wipes out the old Earth beliefs. The problem is, though, that you can tell a 6-year-old anything, and they're going to believe it. And sadly, just 200 years ago, almost everybody in the world thought the Earth was only about 6,000 years old and it had been judged by a global flood. But now, almost everybody